how do you rate the levels of racial tolerance in the present social climate?
I think what's happened in Britain over the last decade or so is that some of the gains that we'd made in the past in this country have actually started to ebb away. And one of the things that happens is that the racisms that have existed in the past change their form. And so we're seeing, especially at the moment, new kinds of racism, especially against Muslims and against new migrant communities. And that's really something that I don't think many people are actually talking about in this kind of slightly sentimental and romanticised idea of multicultural Britain that we have.
Is it possible to make a distinction between religious tolerance and racial tolerance?
To a certain extent it's possible, but in this country, generally Muslims are Asian or from the Middle East, and so the experience of that relationship is always one that's racial. And although obviously Muslims are identifying themselves by their religion, the way they're perceived, I would say, is in terms of race. And so I would say that you can talk about a kind of anti-Muslim racism at the moment in Europe especially.
50 years down the line, how do you see the society in Europe?
I think Europe can go one of two ways. It can actually go in a direction where the kind of new communities that are establishing themselves in the continent are actually welcomed and participate as equal citizens in a Europe that's comfortable with multiculturalism. Or you could see certain communities picked out, increasingly singled out for witch hunts, for scaremongering, deportation, and that kind of regressive politics is a very strong force in Europe today.
So how do those communities will able to accept that or to come to terms with reality with such kind of politics in the future?
I think we go back to the history that we have of the different political struggles that have existed in Britain to challenge racism. And we need to go back to that sort of tradition of actually organising ourselves as communities, building up a political movement that says that we're citizens of Europe and that we're to be treated as such.
One last question. Don't you think multiculturalism is more a cliche or a stereotype rather than what we see in reality?
I think it means a lot of different things to different people, and that's a problem. And I think it's worth distinguishing between the specific policies that have been put in place over the years in the name of multiculturalism, many of which have been deeply problematic, and the wider sort of philosophy of multiculturalism, which is that in a state, people shouldn't have to adopt anyone else's culture in order to participate in that society, which is an important idea that is important for India as much as it is for the UK.
Thank you very much.